Hello guys, my name is Richmond and I welcome you back to another video on the structured programming course. In our previous tutorial, we were talking about control structures, where we spoke about the sequence control structure and also the decision making control structures. In today's tutorial, we'll be moving on with the looping control structures. But before that, if you're a new viewer, I would encourage you to subscribe to this channel so that you get more educative content from the RichTechWorld. So without wasting much time, let's delve into the tutorial. Okay guys, so looping control structures are also known as the repetitive or iterative control structures. Okay, and they are used for repeating or executing some statements in our programs for a particular number of time. Okay, so when you are programming and there is a particular statement or command or instruction that you want to repeat for a period of time, you just use the looping control structures. And there are four main types we'll be discussing in this course, which is the for loop, the while loop, the do while loop, and then the repeat until loop. Okay, in this specific tutorial we'll be taking two. Okay, as usual, I don't want to make this video long and boring, so I just take my time to explain each and everything for you to get the understanding well. So we'll be taking two out of the four of the looping control structures, which is the for loop and then the while loop. Okay, so without wasting much time, let's just move into the for loop. Okay, so let's take some of the description I have for the for loop statement over here. Okay, so the first one is that it is best used when the number of times to loop is known in advance. Okay, so if you are writing a code or if you are writing a program and you know the number of times you want to repeat a particular statement, okay, the best looping control structure you need to use is the for loop. Okay, and also it usually comes with three commands, okay, or three statements. So it is in three phases. Okay, so the first one is used to set the starting value. The second one is for the ending condition or the last value, and then the third one is the modifier. Okay, so after every run, the modifier is what is going to make changes to the starting value. Okay, so let's take note of that. And also another thing I want you to know is that it's also a pretest loop. Okay, when we say a pretest loop, it just means that the condition is checked before the action inside the loop is being executed. So with the for loop, the condition is first checked to see if it's true. If it's true, then it moves into the loop and then runs whatever you have in the loop. Okay, so let's look at the general structure for the for loop so that we understand it better. Okay, so the first thing is you write the for. Okay, so for statements, and then you assign the control variable to a starting value, which we have here, control variable equal to starting value. Then also you assign the ending value. Okay, then the modifier as well, which is the step value we have over here. Okay, then the next line is the loop statement. So whatever you want to run or execute when the for loop condition is true is placed inside the loop statement, which is the second line we have here. Okay, then we end the whole thing with the end for statement. So basically this is how we write, or the general structure for the for loop. Okay, and we have these things explaining or what I just said. Okay, so the starting value is used to initialize the control variable. The control variable is a variable used to regulate the looping or repetition of the loop. Okay, the ending value specifies the end condition or the last value. Okay, so I've already made mention of that. And also the step value is optional. Okay, When used, it specifies how the value of the control variable should be modified for the next iteration. Okay, so I just said that in my previous statement that it will make changes to the starting value after every loop. Okay, so that is that for the for loop. So let's move into some examples so that you understand the for loop better. So the first example, assume we want a loop to display the numbers 1 to 100. Let I be a control variable, and also the loop can be written as follows. Okay, so let's see how the loop is being written over here. So first of all, we have our starting value, or the control variable, which is I. Okay, and then we assigned it to a starting value which is 1. So I is 1, and then we want I to get to 100. So we have the ending value to be 100. Okay, then the step is 1. Okay, the step value is 1. So after every run of the command or instruction in the for loop, 1 is going to be added to the I value, or the previous starting value. Okay, so here the I is going to start with 1. So after printing I, which is 1, 1 is going to be added to the previous value, which is 1, and it will make it 2. Okay, then it's going to print the 2 just continuously until the I value is 100. Okay, then that means it's going to stop right there. Okay, so let's move on with example 2. Assume we want a loop to print all even numbers between 1 and 500. Okay, so we have the solution over here. We have for even numbers equals 2 to 500. So the starting value, or the control variable, is first assigned to a starting value of 2. Okay, and then we have the ending value to be 500, and then our step value is also 2. So after printing the initial starting value, which is the even number variable, and we know that the even number variable contains 2, is going to print that particular 2, and then after that 2 is going to be added to that starting value, because we have a step of 2. Okay, so 2 is going to be added to the previous value, making it 4, and it's going to print that 4 too as well. So it will print all even numbers because the step is 2, and if you add 2 to an even number, you get the next even number ahead of it until we get 500. Okay, so that is that for that. Then we have the end for here, ending the whole for loop. Okay, so basically this is how we write a for loop. So the last example we have here is actually a question. Okay, and then we've answered it, and I'm going to give a reason why the answer is so. So the question says, indicate how many times the statement I love programming will display on the screen. Okay, so we have the condition here for many times equals 1. So the control, the starting variable is equal to 1. Okay, to 100, and then we also have step minus 1. So what do you see here? Okay, after every run, which is the print I love programming, we are going to subtract 1 from the 1, which is the starting value, which is actually not going to work. And if we start from 1 and our step value is a minus, there is no way 1 can ever get to the 100. Hence the loop is invalid, okay, and will not be executed at all. So we should take note of these things. These are examinable questions you can be asked during your quizzes and your exams. Okay, so take note of this very well. Okay, so I have some couple of questions over here for you to handle. For I equals 100 to 40, then okay, we have an action in between there. So you are going to determine how long each and every loop is going to run. Okay, so we have four loop conditions here, or 4 loop control structures here. So just provide your answers in the comment section, and then I will go through and give each and every one a reply. Okay, so Moving on, we are going to talk about while loops. Okay, while loops, and let's take a look at the description of while loop. Okay, so they are best used when the number of times to loop is not known in advance. Okay, so whenever you are writing a code, okay, and then you don't know the exact number of times you want to repeat a specific statement, but then as the statement repeats, you are actually going to arrive at the specific point you actually want to end it. Okay, that is when you use the while loop. Sometimes when you are writing codes, you don't know, it will actually depend on the input being given. Okay, so with that one, you don't actually know the number of times that particular for loop should run. Okay, so that is when you use the while loop. Okay, and the while loop also repeats as long as the condition has been met. Okay, so as long as the condition for the while loop is true, the action or statements inside the while loop is going to be executed. Okay, and it's also known as a pretest loop, just like the for loop we just learned about. Okay, so when we say pretest, it just means that the condition is being tested for. Okay, the code is actually going to check if the condition of the while loop is true before it executes the instruction or the statements within it. Okay, so the general structure is very simple, and let's take a quick look at it. Okay, so while condition is true, then statements. Okay, so it could be a whole lot of statements in there. Okay, that series of statements you want to run in there, just like the for loop too as well. Okay, so the while loop is actually going to check for the condition. If the condition is true, then the statement within the while loop gets executed. Then you have the end while statement to end the whole condition. Okay, so the code or the program is going to bypass the while loop only when the condition is false. Okay, and move on to the program beneath it or the codes beneath it only when the condition of the while loop is false. Okay, so let's take note of that. So let's look at some examples to broaden our understanding on the while loop. Now the first example says that we have a variable, okay, I, and we give it a value of 1. So I equals 1. Okay, so there is a variable called I, and then within that variable we have 1 there. Okay, then we bring our while control structure over here. So while I is less than or greater than 100, then we are going to print the value of I, and also now I is going to be equal to I plus 1. Okay, so we are going to add 1 to the value of I. Okay, so basically that is it. So this is what it is going to do. First of all, the program is going to check if the condition in the while loop is true, which is I is less than or equal to 100. And the condition is actually true because I is equal to 1. The initial value is what? 1. So 1 is less than or equal to 100. Okay, so that means we are going to print I, which is 1, and then after printing I, we are going to add 1 to the current value of I and assign it to I again. Okay, so now I becomes 2. Okay, and we check again. Is 2 less than or equal to 100? And that one is also true. So we come inside the while loop again, and then we run whatever we have in there, which is we print 2 on the screen, and also we also add 1 to that particular 2 again. Then we go and check over and over until I becomes what? Greater than 100, because we have here less than or equal to. So it's only when it becomes greater than 100 that is when the condition becomes false, and therefore it's going to exit the while loop. Okay, so let's move on to the next example. Okay, assume we have a certain number of numbers to sum, and that we are told the number 100 is not part of the list, and that is just mark the end of the list. Here we don't know the total number of the numbers in the set, okay? So our loop can be written as follows. Now we declare sum, okay? And then we declare another variable, which is number, both of them as what? Integers, okay? And then we also equate sum to be 0, okay? The initial value of sum to be 0. Okay, then with the number, the variable number, which is an integer, we receive it from the user. So we input number, okay, which is going to allow the code or the compiler to receive input from the user. So from there, we use our while control structure, okay. So while number, so the number inputted by the user is not, okay, so let's take note of this operator. It's a relational operator, okay, and we've discussed it in one of our previous tutorials. So if you actually didn't watch the tutorial where we spoke about operators, you need to go back and watch those tutorial, okay. So while number is not equal to 100, okay, so the number received by the user, while it's not equal to 100, so if the number is not equal to 100, that means the condition is true, okay. So if the condition is true, then we can then go ahead and run what is in the while loop, which is sum equals sum plus number, okay. Then we ask the user to input another number, okay. So input another number until the person inputs 100. The while loop is not going to end, okay. So the user is going to be allowed to input numbers to be added up until the user inputs 100, which will make the condition false, okay. Then it's going to move to the codes after it, okay. So this is another example explained, okay. So thank you all for watching this tutorial. I hope it has been brief and educative, okay. I want to see you all in the next tutorial. So if you haven't still subscribed to the channel yet, kindly tap on the subscribe button, and also like this video if you learned any new thing. In our next tutorial, we'll be talking about the do while statement, okay, still under the looping control structures, and also we'll talk about the repeat until control structure. So I wish you all the best, okay, and until we meet another day, shalom and stay blessed.